So, I spent the last weekend at Pax Thoughts, and it was an interesting experience. It's not my first PAX Australia. It's probably the first one I've attended with the mindset of being more someone going there to find things to tell other people about than just going there for my own reasons. So I guess I went in with a mindset more of being a content creator for the first time ever rather than just being your average punter off the street. And I think from that perspective, I found the whole thing quite disappointing. There was some excellent things on show at PAX, and I'll go through them in this video and tell you a little bit about them. There's definitely like Frost's PAX picks, but the general feel of the whole event for me was very disappointing. And yeah, publishing a video where I'm being negative about PAX probably is going to reduce my chances of getting a media pass next year, but I didn't get one this year and I'll still go even if I have to pay for the tickets. That's not really my thing. I want to tell you what my real thoughts are rather than sugarcoating it. So I'll start on the good things. PAX Australia's indie gaming section this year was fantastic. It's probably the best it's ever been. There was so much on show, there was so much variety, and one thing that I found really exciting and really cool to see was there were sections from developers who had really early builds, really early demos of indie games that they were making that they were actually kind of scared to show off, but they were being brave enough to do so and letting the people that were attending check out their very early projects. Stuff like Tunnel Tactics, I'll talk about later. The developer confided in me that, he wasn't sure if the game would even run properly, or that might be paraphrasing slightly, I don't have the exact quote, but it was really scary showing it to people because of the state, how early the build was in. But giving them a platform to show these things off was very cool. I got to chat to a lot of developers. I got to chat to a lot of really passionate, invested people. That was my highlight of the show by far. And I'll go into, as I say, after I've gone on a little bit, I'll go into some details about some of the stuff that was really cool that I think you should have on your radar, that I think you should check out. My picks. And there'll be a timestamp to that as well, so if you want to jump ahead through me whining about PAX, you can jump straight to there. I've also got an interview with Toge Productions, the folk that are making Kriegsfront Tactics. It's not particularly long. The audio quality is interesting, but I think I'll give it to you raw because you can see how passionate I am about Kriegsfront Tactics, and you can see how passionate they are about it as well. And that'll be at the end of the video too. If you don't know, Kriegsfront Tactics is the game that is in the background of the video right now. It's a turn-based sort of tactical mech game, RPG / tactical game that is very heavily themed on Front Mission, but we'll talk about that later. So why was I disappointed in PAX? Well, the general thing for me was that I believe PAX should be a showcase of gaming. It should be this event that celebrates and shows off and everybody's excited about video games. And I just didn't feel like that was what PAX Australia was this year. If you have a look at the map of the whole event, you can see that aside from the big indie gaming area in the main hall, you've got Ubisoft, you've got Sega, you've got Square Enix, and then we have a look at the rest of what we've got here. Keychron, LG Electronics Australia, Blackmagic Design, Govee, MSI, Crunchyroll, Centercom, Cooler Master, Republic of Gamers, Aftershock PC, That's Hot, King's Comics, Curious Empire, Black Milk, Toynink Toys, Umart Online, Anime Works. They're all just there to sell stuff. And I know video games are a product, but they're not specifically selling video games. They're just selling branded things. Cooler Master, etc. They're selling their products, they're selling their computers, they're selling their peripherals, and then we've got clothes and toys and stuff. We already have a massive merch booth for PAX. If you just like ring it out, a lot of the floor space was really taken up for stuff that, I don't know, maybe I'm just complaining too much, but wasn't really video game related. Now, a lot of these vendors have been here before, and that's not my problem. It's just the fact that there was so much space given over to their booths this year that it really made it obvious that other large publishers weren't in attendance. So there was no sign of EA, there was no sign of Blizzard Activision apart from a small photo booth. Maxis had a small photo booth outside. There was nothing from Paradox. We didn't see anything from Riot. And there's so many other publishers and developers, especially in Asia, like Nintendo, that didn't do anything for the show, that just meant that lack of endorsement was really felt. It, to me, made it feel like PAX Australia or Australia itself was just not interesting as a market to showcase things in, which is a shame because you could do some really interesting things with the time zoning here where you can give stuff to an Australian audience and they could have assimilated it in time for your Australian or so your American audience or your European audience to have woken up and get all this information that's been curated rather than it coming out live. I don't know. It just felt really disappointing, and I took that feeling of disappointment with me for quite a lot of the weekend. And I'm talking about the main floor here. So we're going to ignore stuff like the Cult of the Lamb Wedding Chapel and the Bethesda Oblivion Tavern section or Skyrim Tavern section. That was outside the main hall. This is the main section. So I mentioned that Sega were there, which was cool, but they were there to promote one game, which was Sonic. The Square Enix were there to promote a Final Fantasy expansion, or just Final Fantasy Online. I'm not sure what. It's not really my jam, but that was a really big booth, very popular. But they weren't doing like a whole ton of things. Like here's our whole thing. It's just a little bit. There were a few. I'll be fair. There were a few other developers there with like individual games, but it just felt to me. I remember going to PAX a few years ago, mostly before COVID, and honestly, my impression, I maybe nostalgic here, misremembering. My impression really was that like all the big developers were there, and they were all showing stuff off. I remember there being like an esports stage that was there, and people were playing esports all weekend. And instead, this year, we had a Red Bull Dodgeball arena and a cafe, and we even had board games being played in the main area. Now, all power to the board game people. That must have been an awesome opportunity to get your board games demoed in the main gaming area rather than the tabletop section, which was huge and great this year. But it just felt to me that like they were really trying to fill space. The other things that I found really difficult were obviously the amount of people. It was really busy, as the opening clips hopefully showed you. It was really hard to get to speak to any of the developers. In multiple occasions, I was waiting quite patiently to speak to somebody, and someone else came and like pushed their way through in front of me to play a demo or whatever. And I wasn't going to argue with those people. If they were that desperate to do so, then power to them. It was just, I don't know. It felt weird this year. I went to a load of panels. The panels were excellent. Every panel I attended, the crew and the cast were amazing. Their passion, their excitement, their joy of doing what they were doing was so cool to see. I would love to run a panel at PAX one year. Those were fantastic. I did also go to a bunch of meetups, and they were a little bit harder. The ANZ creator meetup that I went to, I was hoping to do some networking, hoping to meet some people, hoping to like expand what I'm working on, maybe get some people to do some collabs and stuff with. That hit capacity instantly, and the queue was still about 200-300 people, and I ended up leaving because the queue was just really packed and not very comfortable. And then I went to the Twitch meetup as well. I got into the Twitch meetup, but that room hit capacity instantly as well, and I ended up just kind of jammed into a room with about 150 other people, most of whom didn't know each other, and it was like shoulder to shoulder, and even the people I tried to chat to were getting distracted and pushed around, and in the end I left that as well. It just I don't know, it felt a bit manic this year. I think that was the word I'm searching for, was the whole thing felt manic. And this is just my flow of thoughts about the whole thing. I will talk about games and stuff in a second, and you can skip ahead to that. But it's just really disappointing to me that we really don't get a lot of big events in Australia for video gaming. We had DreamHack earlier in the year. We've got PAX now. Nintendo obviously had an event in Sydney earlier in the year, and I think that's their excuse for not being at PAX. But we have so much nearby in terms of Asian game developers, Australian game developers, New Zealand game developers. It's just a shame there's not more of an event or more of a, I don't know. I feel like there's a great opportunity that's being missed in attendees. I mean, like Riot could have been here and they weren't. Or, you know, there's so many great Korean publishers, and it's just I feel like a missed opportunity. I've said it already, but yeah, PAX was just difficult this year. I will go next year, but I will be going in with reservation, and I'll probably do a better job of recording stuff. I wish I'd picked up more recordings. You've pretty much seen everything I recorded from the start, apart from the interview that I recorded. I did chat to a few people, but it's just so busy. It was really hard to like try and get there. I've actually got recording of me talking to other developers where you just can't hear anything because it's so loud around us, which is my bad for not having the right equipment. So I'll make a better effort on that next year if people are interested in me just rambling on about this. And I will talk about my picks because there are some really cool games at PAX, and I don't want to over like lay that there is some really cool stuff here. It's just a shame that there wasn't more of a, you know what it is? It feels like the industry wasn't supporting PAX. It feels like those really big publishers that dominate the market, that make all of the money, decided that PAX Australia wasn't worth their time, and it made the whole thing feel less involved in the whole industry than I feel like it really should be. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm not going to go on for more than 10 minutes about this. It's just a shame. I've never really done a video like this before either. I just wanted to get it out there that PAX was a bit sad. And I definitely found it difficult. I found it really overwhelming. And I walked away from it with a profound sense of disappointment. If it wasn't for how well the Toge Productions interview went, which was the last thing I did on the Sunday, I think I would have been a lot more upset about the whole thing. I'll tell you who did bring it to PAX was the people that attended. The cosplay and the excitement and the joy you could see on people's faces was fantastic, and that buoyed me up quite a lot. I attended PAX on my own, probably part of the problem. If I'd had someone to go with and chat to while I was there and make a plan with, that might have made a big difference, so that's probably my fault. But seeing the cosplayers, especially on the Saturday, that was excellent. The 30 plus Helldivers was a highlight, and yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on around PAX. As I said, the panels were great. That Cult of the Lamb stage was a favorite for the whole weekend, and people actually literally getting married on that stage was really funny and really cool little thing that they were doing. It's just a shame that, I don't know, the main floor just didn't feel good to me this year. It really felt it felt like I was just in a big trade show for hardware. You know, you've got the MSI people chanting, getting people to chant like MSI, 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 just to get like NAF gear thrown at them, and they're all competing with each other to shout over each other, like the different booths. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not doing myself any favors for getting like sponsorships or anything, but that's not really what I'm about. I want to tell you things as they are. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I really hope that PAX next year is more of an event. It could be that it's at the time of year that it is. It's like, you know, Q4, Q3 for a lot of companies. Their budgets are maybe a little bit tight. They can't afford to fly people to Australia. But then I see small indie producers like Toge Productions sending their teams over from Indonesia. And I think, well, if they can do it, you know. But that's what I'm thinking. Let's have a look at some of the really cool games that I saw at PAX and get this video a little bit more positive. So the first game I want to talk about that caught my eye at PAX is one that I saw last year that I really liked the look of and was really excited to see return in a more refined state this year, and that's Beyond These Stars by Balancing Monkey Games. It's being published by Hooded Horse, it's coming out in 2025, and it is a cool little city/colony builder in which you build your city on the back of a giant space whale. I chatted to the developer for this one, the lead designer, for quite a bit. He had some really interesting things to say about where his inspiration for the game had been. And one of the things that really resonated with me was he said that he liked to play the Anno games, but with the AI turned off. So just getting to build the city and getting all the systems in your cities kind of to work together with the trading and everything, which is something that appeals to me sometimes as well. There's something really satisfying about building a city in a game like this where you just get all the systems working and it's just like a little microcosm of perfection. And that's kind of where one of the places he was coming at for this. The inspiration for the game, which I assumed was Discworld, actually turned out to be seeing a lantern festival where lit lanterns were sent out on, I think it was on a lake or a river, and he saw one that was a whale with a city on the back of it. It was all lit up, and just bing, the inspiration for the game hit him really hard there, and that was really cool to hear. The game itself features a lot of bonuses and negatives for adjacency, so you're trying to build like districts and things and put them together. It also has some really cool terraforming aspects where you need to modify the terrain to push water into dead areas on the whale's back to then bring atmosphere and bring the trees back to life so you can expand your city in that direction. There is apparently going to be a story as well to the game, which progresses as the whale moves through, and the demo that is available on Steam has the opening to that story, which is quite interesting. It kind of talks about a post, I think, like solar punk society that gets chased by these hungry creatures from space. They go underground, they forget many things, they come back, they land on a whale, they get abducted. It sounds really interesting. This definitely fits for me that it's been a long day. you've got not a lot on your brain for really wanting to play something competitive or something that's gonna get your heart rate spiking. You want something cozy and relaxing, and I think this is the perfect kind of title for that. As I said, it's coming out in 2025. There is a demo available on Steam if you want to check it out right now. I'm not sure if it's part of Steam Next Fest. I'm not sure how long the demo is going to be available for, but it was available as of me recording and releasing this video. And I highly recommend you give it a try if you like any sort of city builder, because it really does scratch a nice itch. Another title that really caught my eye, that I really enjoyed the time I had with it, was Nullspark Solus, coming to us from Smash Attack Studios, due again for release in 2025. This is kind of like a interesting controller-based scavenger game where you control a little drone that's going through a ruined megacity, trying to find scrap to rebuild a Nullstar. What's interesting about it is that your craft has thrusters on each side of it. You need to navigate environments by using the thrusters, but at the same time you can disable thrusters on certain sides to increase the power of the ones that you haven't disabled. And it really looks like this is going to be a game that speedrunners and highly skilled players are going to have a lot of fun with. I am not one of those players, but I think there's going to be a really interesting Twitch stream scene for this game. Now, the next two titles, there isn't actually any media for them available on the internet, and I didn't record any video of them while I was at PAX, so I don't have anything to show you for them, but I think they're worth mentioning because I think they're worth keeping an eye out for. The first is a game called Bearers. That's Bearears. It is a kind of mix of Dark Souls action RPG with an original Guild Wars style deck building system for putting together your character's abilities. The version that we saw at PAX was very, very early. It was still pretty rough, but the idea behind it seemed fascinating. The developer really wanted to put together a system where you design a character based off the equipment that you've got equipped and merging classes together to create an ability deck, and then you would go into instance environments with your friends to fight bosses, clear dungeons, and there'd be a PvP element to it as well. Anyone who played Guild Wars 1, which is from a long time ago now, will get an idea of what they're aiming for with this ability to put together different abilities to build a kind of an ability deck. It seemed really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it from the developer as it progresses. Right now, there isn't a lot to show you. The other game I want to bring out, the last one for this video, is a game called Tunnel Tactics. It's being made by Wild Boy Studios. They don't actually have any information for it on their website yet, but they unveiled it for the first time at PAX. Think of a game similar to Kingdom, where you're in a 2D plane and you're spreading your influence out in both directions, but then combine that with a very tactics-based, XCOM-inspired real-time combat system where you're deploying soldiers into cover, you're building cover elements for them, you're upgrading their gear, and you've kind of got what Tunnel Tactics looks like. The demo that was at PAX was so new that I don't think people were actually able to play it. It was just being demoed by a member of the development team. The developer themselves was both very excited and a little bit scared to be at PAX because of how early on in the project this was, but it looked very, very interesting to me, and it is something that I will be keeping an eye on going forward, and if I can get any more information on it, I will be bringing it to you. So that's Tunnel Tactics. The last thing I want to leave you with is my interview with the team from Toge Productions. It's pretty clear that I went into this a little bit unprepared. I've never done an interview before, and what I'm going to do is I've cut out the kind of opening questions where we kind of cover stuff that everyone knows about Kriegsfront tactics and focus on the more interesting things that I really wanted to ask the developer. I'm not going to clean this up or anything because I think keeping the actual like passion and excitement between the two of us really makes for a good interview. And I know the audio isn't great because we've recorded it on the show floor at PAX, but I think that adds to the atmosphere as well. So I'll leave you with this. I'm really keen to see what you think. I would love to do more interviews in the future, but I will definitely approach them in a more professional manner going forward. But here is the interview between me and Toge. So what I would like to know is what influences or what inspiration has there been for the game? Like, there's clearly front mission DNA deep in Kriegsfront Tactics, but what other games have inspired you guys?
Okay, few games other than front mission obviously is XCOM.
Yeah.
The foundation of the gameplay is from XCOM, but we also add in some more Phoenix Point,
Phoenix
plus
Point, yeah.
Jagged Alliance.
Jagged
as
Alliance,
well.
yeah.
And as well as we also want to include the stress element, the insanity element
Yeah.
from the Darkness dungeon as well.
Yeah, you can see that at the end. I haven't played. I don't think this is a new version of the demo you've got here, or is it the same demo that's on Steam at the moment?
It is the same demo on the Steam, but we compress it only
Okay.
for 2 battles.
Ah, okay. Because you definitely see at the end of the Steam demo, you get that break point with the main character when his mentor dies, and he gets his PTSD, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Have you had any really interesting feedback while it's been up here? It must be really good to get like time on with such a big range of people playing the game.
Yeah. One of the most interesting thing is people really want PTSD, which is the breaking point, which is exactly what
you've already got. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's really good.
That's cool.
And then people, some people, not only in PAX but also in other con as well, they don't, during the tutorial, when you have to change your weapon, they don't really see it because the UIs are the bottom left. So I think we need to adjust.
Like move that to the middle or something. Or just highlight it.
Yeah, just highlight it a little bit.
So that's really useful feedback you've got.
That's very
just
useful.
watching people play, I think, must be really, really interesting.
Yes, exactly.
One thing that Kriegsfront does that I find really interesting, that not many other tactical games do, and especially because you've mentioned that games like XCOM XCOM is a very big influence, is that the facing mechanic really forces you to move around the battlefield.
Exactly.
And that's the type of thing that's usually disincentivized in other games.
Yeah.
Like in XCOM, especially the new XCOM, we'll call the Take-Two one new XCOM. If you get out of heavy cover, you're going to lose a soldier.
Yeah.
But in Kriegsfront, you've really got to constantly try and get to the side or behind your enemy if you want to shoot them and get a decent hit.
Yes.
Where did that come from? What was the idea behind that? Did you want to make the gameplay more dynamic, or was it just like a stroke of inspiration?
Yeah. So one of the biggest part that we dislike about XCOM, let's to say the least, is the 99% procs. And the 99% accuracy chance and the 1% procs.
Which is one of the most frustrating things for people who don't really have,
Exactly. We don't like that. Our director really hates that to the core. So because we tried to find out the reason why that happens, and we conclude that the reason for it to happen because of the hit scan mechanic. So instead of hit scan, we are opting to use projectile system instead.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, the projectile system. So because the XCOM also has the cover and half cover as the core mechanic, we opted, because we have projectile, it doesn't really work that good. So instead we just use the environmental cover and then the stealth as well. Yeah,
the stealth's a really big part. From what I've seen, the fact that you can hide in trees and fire out of the trees and no one knows exactly where you fired from is a really cool mechanic, both from being ambushed and setting up ambushes.
Yes. So after we set up all of that, we've encountered one slight problem, which people are just going to face smash everything in the front. So we try to come up with a good solution for that, and the solution for that is evasion. So we heavily encourage you to run around the forest and try to flank the enemy, and the enemy will also flank you.
It's really, it makes for really exciting battles, and I think it makes more sense, especially because you're in a giant mech. You wouldn't be taking cover; you'd be trying to get into position to take advantage of it. Are you worried about people doing anything like a really common tactic in the XCOM remake was Overwatch trapping, where you would set all of your units up in Overwatch and wait for the enemy to move in and then just wipe out a whole pod? By the way, I also really like that you have pods of enemies on the map that activate together rather than individual enemies, because it makes every combat a little challenge, and then if you accidentally overactivate, you're suddenly really having to think, and it makes for a good strategy. But are you thinking about the Overwatch traps, or are you trying to encourage that? Do you think that's a clever use of play, or do you think that's, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Overwatch system is quite strong. Also in our game as well. During our first prototype, me personally, because I really like the game, so I played dozens of times.
Me too.
Thank you. My favorite strategy is just to Overwatch trap everything. And so our game designer saw it and he nerfed it. he made it used to cost 1 AP, and now it costs 2 AP. So you can't. And then in the other games, Overwatch usually means one shot the enemy troops, and you cannot do that in the Kriegsfront tactics. So it's still strong, very strong, and I heavily encourage people to use it because it's strong.
Especially Long Watch, which is, I think Long Watch is great.
Long Watch is amazing. but it's definitely not a sure way to win the combat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to talk about is you get hints in the demo of player skills. So if you give the main character something different than an SMG, you can see his like assault rifle skill sets level up. Are there front mission style triggered abilities? I noticed there's some, like if you have a shield, you get that sometimes they'll bring the shield up. So how does that mechanic work? Is that something you can train into your soldiers, or is that assigned to the piece of equipment? What's the mechanics there? Because it seems like it's there, but it's more like hinting at something than being fully integrated into the game. Or is that still under development and you haven't got an idea for it yet?
Well, it is still under development, but the idea for the weapon mastery here is to have a special skills. Once you are more like adept enough to use the weapons, there should be something like also the setting right now is like in the middle. For the gameplay purposes, it's like in a middle game. So, for example, if you use 2 SMGs, there should be akimbo skills. It's something like that for the weapon mastery. So, one of the idea here is like for the sniper to have a smaller reticle.
As they get better, more. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, something like
when
that.
You do I actually really like that as well, the active aim mode, where you get a little bit more involved in what your troops are doing. It just brings the immersion in a little bit tighter and makes you feel more into it. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to finding out more about that, like as you develop that. I want to talk about the setting a little bit as well. I was quite surprised by the setting. I think if you've seen it in my early coverage, I immediately thought, oh, Vietnam. But it's not Vietnam. It's Malaysia.
Well, it's fictional.
But it's
fictional.
So
the inspiration is obviously a Vietnam War. But we are Indonesian there.
Indonesia, that's right.
So, and I think we're more comfortable with and we are also aware of our history.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So, growing up, I grew up mostly in the UK. I had no idea about Indonesia's history. But one thing that's really come to light is through comments and people talking to me since I posted the videos, is both Dutch people and Indonesian people that are in my audience explaining the background of the setting and like how it reflects on things. And I just thought that was really, really interesting. And is it that familiarity that made you want to use that as your settings background, or was that someone in the team was really, really like enthusiastic about that? Like, what's the basis for basing it in this sort of fictional version?
Essentially, we just really like our history, so we kind of, I think it's pretty underutilized in the fictional media.
Definitely,
So we want to use that as a background of the story, and I think we can tell quite an interesting story that inspired from our history.
Oh, definitely. Cool. Going back to Front Mission 3, one of the biggest features in that game that I remember when I played it as a kid was very early on you make a decision. And that decision totally changes the whole story. Has Kriegsfront got any plans for branching storylines, or are you just going, this is the narrative and you can go down it, or can you choose which side you want to be on? It feels like not morale, but your morals are going to be tested in the game. Is that something that the player's going to have a bit of agency on, or is it more just you're going to experience things and that's going to affect your characters?
So for the main story, for the plan right now, we are going for a more linear story, but we also have side mission. And probably we can play around with that kind of with the side mission.
Cool. Awesome. I've got a few others I want to ask. Have you got any plans for like rare equipment that you can find out in the world, or is it very much like we're just going to set up I think it's the 4 manufacturers with their equipment, or is there sort of like legendary equipment you can find if you go into a side mission, which you just mentioned? Is that kind of thing planned, or?
The plan here is to have rare equipment in the game as well.
Cool. Awesome. That's you've been very tight-lipped on that, which tells me there's plans there, but you don't want to give too much away.
The grinding and farming is going to be really a core part of the game.
Okay, cool. I like the world map, and I like that you can see enemy patrols, and that all looks really interesting as well. What else did I have to ask? I think I've gone through most of my main questions that I wanted to go through. What did the community want to know? A lot of people were asking about inspirations from outside strategy games, if there was anything there.
Let me think for a moment. Outside of strategy games, probably movies. Like something like Platoon.
Platoon for sure,
Full Metal
with all the names in the...
And then probably Pat Labor as well, the anime.
That is an anime that I have seen pop up like on my TikTok a lot, clips from it. I really want to check it out, but I haven't been able to watch it yet. So do you recommend Pat Labor? Okay. Definitely need to check it out.
Very good. Because Pat Labor, the movie at least, also has a setting in Southeast Asia.
Yeah?
So the opening of Pat Labor is actually we got some inspiration for our opening scene from the opening of Bad Labor as well.
Okay, that's cool. I think I'm out of questions. I probably will walk away and be like, oh, I forgot to ask this. But this has been really cool.
Thank you.
When do you think I know development is development, and you can't put anything in stone.
Yeah.
But what is your target for either release or early access release?
Can't say for sure at the moment, but sure you will find out soon enough. In
Cool.
Our social media.
Awesome. I will be the first to check when it gets updated.
Thank you.
I have a few questions about Toge if you're willing to answer.
Yes, I'm ready.
Cool. So you've got two other games that you're showing off here, as well as Kriegsfront Tactics. You've got Whisper Mountain Outbreak, and you've got Moses and Plato, The Last Train to Clawville.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little about both of those games?
Okay, so Whisper Mountain Outbreak is basically a survival horror multiplayer game that you can play online with your friends, up to 4 people. And you can play it solo as well, but it will be a bit harder. So it's about a game about escaping a cursed mountain where everyone is a zombie. So you will fight zombie, you have to find clues to get out of the building, and you have to break the curse. As for Moses and Plato, Last Train to Clawville, we're not developing the game.
Okay,
we're the publisher of the game.
Excellent.
So the game is developed by the Wild Gentlemen. They're from Europe and they have lots of experience before developing this one. One of their biggest title is the Chicken Police, and Moses and Plato is actually happening in the same universe
awesome.
as Chicken Police. So it's like a detective mystery crime visual novel that happens on the train. So you have to solve a crime, a murder crime to be exact, before the time ends or before you reach your own destination. And it happens in the train.
Cool, so it's kind of like Murder on the Orient Express.
Exactly, that's our reference, like main reference is Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express crime novels.
Perfect.
And we have this like voiceovers, and you have to kind of like get to know all the characters, like find clues, like know all their secrets, and then like connecting.
Put it all
clues.
together at the end.
Exactly,
Really cool.
put all together to make your decision. There are like several paths in the game, so you can't get all paths in one run. You have to kind of like replay it again and again to get all the paths. But yeah, it will.
That sounds really, really good. Sounds really interesting,
Thank
especially
you.
if you like true crime and detective novels, and that's a really big area.
Yeah, we're trying to go for like a serious but funny, so we don't want it to be like too nervous, too like thrilling. It has like thrilling scene, but we want it to be like also funny and a bit lighthearted.
Because that makes sense. Keeps it nice and flowing. Cool. And what other stuff do you have on Steam at the moment that you'd like to let people know about?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Well, what other titles do you have that are already out at the moment that you'd like to make sure people are aware of?
I think these 3 titles are our main,
your main push at the moment?
main title as for now, but we definitely have more to be announced soon, so don't forget to follow
exciting time,
social media.
Of course.
I can tell you more about that because it's still
Of course,
unannounced. We have lots of
stuff coming. Exciting things in the works, yes.
And that's everything I have for this video about PAX. I really enjoyed having that chat with Toge Productions. They were so enthusiastic and excited about their project. It makes me even more excited for it coming out whenever it does next year. I know this video has been a bit over the place. I had a lot to say about PAX and I've been procrastinating it for a week now, and I decided just to sit down today and get it all out there. I'm really interested to see what you think about this video. If you think I should shut up or you're really interested in my opinion on things, please let me know. I have a bunch of other videos with my opinions on stuff that I've kind of half built, but they require a lot more work than my standard videos, so I haven't actually released them. But if there is an interest in them, then I will feel more interested in actually getting them done, basically. Don't forget, if you're interested, oh God, I said interested 3 times. I stream twice a week, maybe get up to 3 soon. I might stream tonight. And I also do a few different video releases during the week as well. Please join me if you're interested. Don't forget to like, subscribe, etc. if you like what you see to get more of it. And I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao for now.